This is the story about a split-second decision that changed two lives forever. She was racing to a job interview that could save her future. Then she saw the crash. What happened next will restore your faith in humanity and prove that sometimes being late is exactly where you need to be.
Okay. So, holy shit. I still can't believe this actually happened to me this morning. My hands are literally still shaking as I'm typing this out, and I keep replaying everything in my head, like some kind of movie scene. I need to get this all down while it's fresh, because honestly, this is the wildest thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm still processing it all. So let me back up. This morning started like any other morning where I had something important going on, which is to say, absolutely chaotic. I had a job interview scheduled for 10 a.m. at this tech company downtown, and it was kind of a big deal. Like, potentially life-changing big deal. The position was for a senior marketing role, significant pay bump, actual career progression, the whole 9 yards. But I'd been unemployed for about 3 months after my last company did a round of layoffs, and my savings account was starting to look pretty anemic. This interview felt like it could be the break I desperately needed. Naturally, because the universe has a sense of humor, I woke up late. My alarm didn't go off. Or more accurately, I'm pretty sure I turned it off in my sleep because I do that sometimes when I'm anxious about something. So instead of having a leisurely morning to prepare and get myself mentally ready, I jolted awake at 8:47 a.m. in a complete panic. The interview was downtown, about a 35-minute drive in normal traffic, which meant I had just over an hour to shower, get dressed in my best interview outfit, grab my portfolio, and somehow not look like a complete disaster when I walked into that office. I'll spare you the details of my frantic morning routine, but let's just say I set a new personal record for shower-to-car time. I threw on my navy suit, the good one I'd gotten dry cleaned specifically for this, grabbed a granola bar because there was no time for actual breakfast, and practically sprinted to my car. By the time I was pulling out of my apartment complex, it was 9:08 a.m. I pulled up the GPS, and it said I'd arrive at 9:51 if traffic cooperated. Cutting it close, but doable. I was taking the back roads instead of the highway, because I'd learned from experience that the highway could be a parking lot at this time of morning, whereas the state route that wound through the suburbs was usually pretty clear. It added maybe 5 minutes to the trip, but it was more predictable, and on a day like today, predictable was what I needed. The drive was going surprisingly well. I was making good time, hitting mostly green lights, and I was starting to feel like maybe I could actually pull this off. I was mentally rehearsing my answers to common interview questions. You know, tell me about a time you overcame a challenge. What's your greatest weakness? All that standard stuff. I was feeling a little more confident, a little more in control. And then, as I was coming around this bend on Route 47, about 15 minutes from downtown, I saw it. At first, it didn't fully register. My brain was so focused on the interview that it took a second for what I was seeing to actually click. There was a car, a silver Honda Accord, completely off the road, nose first in the drainage ditch that ran alongside the highway, and the back end was still partially on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking. Broken glass was scattered across the road, glittering in the morning sun. My first instinct, I'm ashamed to admit, was to keep driving. I know how that sounds. But my brain immediately went to the interview, to how I was already cutting it close, to how stopping would mean I'd definitely be late, to how this could cost me the job I desperately needed. I literally started to press the gas pedal a little harder. But then I saw her. A woman was sitting on the ground next to the car, and even from my car, I could see she was holding her arm at a weird angle. She looked dazed, confused, and there was no one else around. The road was completely empty. Just me, her, and the wreckage. I felt this awful twist in my stomach. How could I just drive past? What kind of person would that make me? But also, the interview. My future. My rent that was due in 2 weeks. My dwindling savings account. I slowed down. Then I stopped. Then I pulled over onto the shoulder about 20 feet past the wreck, put my car in park, and just sat there for a second with my hands on the steering wheel, having this internal crisis. I checked the time. 9:23. 3 a.m. If I called 911 and waited for them to arrive, I'd definitely miss the interview. There was no way around it. I looked in my rearview mirror at the woman sitting there on the ground, and I felt this wave of, I don't even know what to call it. Shame? Clarity? Basic human decency finally overriding my panic? Whatever it was, I turned off the car, grabbed my phone, and got out. As I walked back toward the wreck, I could see the damage more clearly. Yet on the front of the Honda was completely crumpled, the windshield spiderwebbed with cracks. The car had clearly hit the ditch at a pretty good speed. How there hadn't been other cars involved was honestly a miracle. This was usually a busy road. The woman looked up as I approached, and I could see she was probably in her late 50s, early 60s. She was wearing scrubs, the kind nurses wear, and she had this look of total disorientation on her face. There was a cut on her forehead that was bleeding pretty steadily, and the way she was holding her left arm suggested it was either broken or badly hurt. "Oh, thank God," she said when she saw me, and her voice was shaky. My phone flew somewhere when I hit. I can't find it." "It's okay," I said, trying to sound calm even though my heart was hammering. "I'm here. Are you hurt? Well, besides your arm?" "I don't know," she said, and I could hear the edge of panic in her voice. "I think I'm okay. My arm really hurts. And my head. Did I hit my head?" The cut on her forehead answered that question. "Stay still, okay? Don't move too much. I'm calling 911 right now." I pulled out my phone and dialed. As I waited for someone to pick up, I crouched down next to her, trying to assess the situation. She was conscious and talking, which seemed like a good sign, but she also seemed pretty out of it. Possible concussion. Definitely needed medical attention. The 911 operator answered, and I gave her all the information. Location, description of the accident, the woman's apparent injuries. The operator said an ambulance was on the way, and to keep the woman calm and still until they arrived. Estimated time, 12 to 15 minutes. And I checked my phone again. 9:28 a.m. Even if the ambulance arrived in 12 minutes and I left immediately, I'd be late. I'd probably be at least 20 minutes late, maybe more. I should call the company, I thought. I should let them know. But what would I even say? I looked at the woman sitting there, bleeding and hurt and scared, and I felt this weird sense of clarity. The interview suddenly seemed very far away and very unimportant. "What's your name?" I asked her. "Margaret," she said. "Margaret Chen. I'm a nurse at St. Mary's. I was on my way to work. I do the morning shift. And there was this deer. It just jumped right out in front of me, and I swerved, and—" She gestured vaguely at the wreck, and her eyes were starting to fill with tears. "My car! Oh God, my car!" "Hey, it's okay," I said. "Cars can be replaced. The important thing is that you're going to be okay. The ambulance is on the way." She nodded, but a tear rolled down her cheek anyway. "I can't believe this happened. I've driven this road every day for 7 years. Every single day." I sat down next to her on the ground, which was probably not great for my interview suit, but at that point, who cared? And I just tried to keep her talking. The 911 operator had said to keep her conscious and alert, especially if there was a head injury involved. "Do you have family I can call?" I asked. "Someone who can meet you at the hospital?" My husband, she said. Robert. His number is in my phone, but I can't find my phone. It's somewhere in the car, I think. Or maybe it flew out the window. I don't remember. That's okay, we'll find it. Or we can look for it. But let's wait for the ambulance first. We sat there together on the side of the road, and I kept her talking. She told me about her husband, about her 2 grown kids, about her job in the pediatric ward at St. Mary's. She'd been a nurse for 33 years. She loved it. She loved the kids, even on the hard days. She was supposed to retire next year, maybe take a trip to Hawaii with Robert. They'd always wanted to go. I told her a little about myself, too, about the interview I was missing. She got really upset when I mentioned that. "Oh no," she said. "Oh no, you have to go. But you can't miss your interview for me. The ambulance will be here soon." "Margaret, I'm not leaving you alone on the side of the road," I said firmly. "The interview can wait. This is more important. But your job will still be there, or it won't. Either way, I'm staying until help arrives." I actually called the company then, used the number from the interview confirmation email. I got the receptionist and explained the situation, that I'd come across an accident, that someone was hurt, that I was waiting with them for an ambulance. I asked if there was any possibility of rescheduling. The receptionist sounded genuinely concerned and said she'd check with the hiring manager. She put me on hold for what felt like forever, but was probably only 2 minutes. When she came back, and she said they could slot me in at 2 p.m. that afternoon if I could make it, the relief I felt was enormous. "Yes," I said. "Absolutely. Thank you so much." When I hung up, Margaret was looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. "You really stayed," she said softly. Of course I stayed. A lot of people wouldn't have. A lot of people would have just driven past. I thought about how close I'd come to doing exactly that, and I didn't know what to say. The ambulance arrived at 9:43 a.m., along with a police car. The paramedics were efficient and professional, checking Margaret's vitals, stabilizing her arm, carefully moving her onto a stretcher. One of them found her phone wedged under the passenger seat and handed it to me. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. "Is there someone we should call?" the paramedic asked. Her husband, Robert," I said. "His number should be in here." I managed to unlock the phone. Margaret told me the passcode and found Robert's number. He answered on the second ring. "Maggie? Why are you calling me from—" "Hi, my name is Sarah," I said, using my real name. "I'm calling about your wife, Margaret. She's been in a car accident." I heard his sharp intake of breath. "She's okay," I said quickly. "She's conscious and talking, but she hit her head, and her arm is injured. The paramedics are with her now, and they're taking her to—" I looked at the paramedic, who mouthed, "Mercy General." "To Mercy General Hospital." "I'm on my way," Robert said immediately. "Thank you. Thank you for— just thank you." As the paramedics were loading Margaret into the ambulance, she grabbed my hand. "Wait," she said. "I don't even know your name." Your real name." "Sarah. Sarah Mitchell." "Sarah." She squeezed my hand with her good one. "How do I repay you? For stopping? For staying? How do I—" "You don't need to repay me," I said. "I'm just glad you're okay, or that you're going to be okay." "No," she said, and there was this intensity in her eyes despite the obvious pain she was in. "You missed your interview. You stayed with me. That's not nothing. Give me your number. Please, I need to be able to thank you properly." I hesitated, but something in her expression made me nod. I pulled out one of my business cards, the ones I'd had made for networking events, and handed it to the paramedic to give to her. "This has my cell number on it. But really, Margaret, you don't owe me anything. Just focus on getting better, okay?" They closed the ambulance doors and drove away, the lights flashing. The police officer asked me some questions about what I'd seen, took my statement, gave me a case number in case I needed it for anything. By the time he was done and I was walking back to my car, it was 10:07 a.m. I sat in my car for a minute, just processing everything. My navy suit had dirt on it from sitting on the ground. There was a small blood stain on the sleeve where I must have brushed against Margaret's arm. My carefully planned morning was shot, but somehow I felt okay. Better than okay, actually. I felt like I'd done the right thing, and that feeling was worth more than being on time. I drove home, changed into my backup interview outfit, a charcoal gray suit that was almost as nice, and made it to the interview at 1:53 p.m., 7 minutes early for the rescheduled time. The interview itself was kind of a blur. I think I did okay. The hiring manager was understanding about the morning's events and actually seemed impressed that I'd stopped to help. We talked about the role, my experience, my vision for their marketing strategy. I left feeling cautiously optimistic, but trying not to get my hopes up too much. The really wild part came 3 days later. I was sitting at home, trying not to obsessively check my email for news about the job, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Is this Sarah Mitchell? Yes, this is Sarah. Hi, Sarah. This is Robert Chen, Margaret's husband. She gave me your number from your business card. My heart jumped a little. Oh, hi, Robert. How is Margaret doing? She's doing well, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Broken wrist, a mild concussion, some bruising and soreness. But the doctors say she's going to be fine. She's already complaining about having to take time off work, which the doctors say is a good sign that she's back to her normal self. I laughed. That's great to hear. I'm so glad she's okay. Listen, Robert said, and his tone got more serious. Maggie told me what you did, how you stopped, how you stayed with her, how you missed your interview to make sure she wasn't alone. That means everything to us. Everything. I'm just glad I was there, I said. We'd really like to take you to dinner, he said, to thank you properly. Would that be okay? I know it's probably weird, accepting dinner from strangers, but Maggie was very insistent. She's been talking about you non-stop. I was about to give some polite excuse. It felt weird, and he was right about that. But then I thought, why not? They seemed like nice people. And honestly, I was curious to see how Margaret was doing. Sure, I said. I'd like that. We made plans for the following week, after Margaret was feeling a bit better. They chose this nice Italian place downtown, and Robert said they were bringing their daughter along too. She'd wanted to meet the person who'd helped her mom. The dinner was wonderful, actually. Margaret looked 1,000,000 times better than she had, sitting on the side of the road. Her wrist was in a cast, but she was animated and cheerful. Robert was warm and funny. Their daughter, Jennifer, was a lawyer in her early 30s with her mother's kind eyes. We talked and laughed, and they insisted on paying despite my protests. Near the end of the meal, Margaret got quiet for a moment, but then reached across the table and took my hand. I've been thinking a lot about that morning, she said, about how scared I was, sitting there alone. And then you stopped. You could have driven past. You had every reason to drive past, but you didn't. Anyone would have done the same, I said. But they didn't, she said gently. You did. And I kept thinking about your interview, about how I might have cost you this job opportunity, and it was eating at me. So I did something that I hope isn't overstepping. I felt a flutter of nervousness. What do you mean? I called the company, she said. I looked them up from your business card. And I called them. I spoke to the hiring manager, a woman named Diana. I told her what happened that morning. I told her about the accident, and about how you stopped and stayed and took care of me. I told her that you were late because of me, and that you were the kind of person who does the right thing, even when it costs you something. My mouth fell open. Margaret, you didn't have to. I wanted to, she said firmly, because you deserved to have someone speak up for you the way you showed up for me. I didn't know what to say. I felt this weird combination of embarrassment and gratitude and hope. Did you get the job? Jennifer asked, leaning forward with interest. I don't know yet, I admitted. I haven't heard back. You'll get it, Margaret said with total confidence. And if you don't, it's their loss. That was Thursday. On Monday morning, I got the call. I got the job. They wanted me to start in 2 weeks. When I called Margaret to tell her, she cried. Actually cried. I knew it, she kept saying. I knew it. I don't know if your call made a difference, I said, but thank you for caring enough to make it. Sarah, honey, you changed the trajectory of my day, maybe saved my life, by stopping when you could have driven past. Making a phone call is the least I could do. That was 8 months ago. I'm writing this now because Margaret and I have stayed in touch. We get coffee once a month or so. Well, she and Robert came to my housewarming party when I moved into a new apartment. The better salary from the new job made that possible. I went to her retirement party last month. We've become friends, which is weird and wonderful and unexpected. The whole thing still feels surreal when I think about it. How close I came to just driving past. How that one decision, that split-second choice to pull over instead of keep going, changed everything. Not just for Margaret, but for me too. I think about that morning a lot. About how we're all just trying to get where we're going, make our appointments, hit our deadlines, not be late for the things that seem important. And how easy it is to miss what's actually important because we're so focused on where we think we need to be. I could have gotten to that interview on time. When I could have driven past Margaret sitting there on the side of the road, hurt and scared and alone. I could have told myself that someone else would stop, that it wasn't my responsibility, that I had my own life to worry about. And you know what? I probably still would have gotten the job. Or maybe I wouldn't have, I'll never know. But I would have missed out on knowing Margaret and Robert. I would have missed becoming friends with Jennifer, who's been helping me understand some legal stuff related to starting a small side business. I would have missed all these moments and connections that have made my life richer. And more than that, I would have had to live with the knowledge that I'd driven past someone who needed help. That when it mattered, when there was a real choice between my convenience and someone else's well-being, I'd chosen convenience. I don't think I could have lived with that very easily. The universe has a weird way of working sometimes, I think. Or maybe it doesn't, and it's all just random. And we create meaning by the choices we make. Either way, I'm glad I made the choice I made that morning. I'm glad my alarm didn't go off on time. I'm glad I took the back roads. I'm glad I stopped. Margaret still asks me sometimes, how do I repay you? And I still tell her the same thing. You already have, just by being my friend. But if I'm being totally honest, I think I'm the one who got the better deal in all of this. I got the job. I got a friend. And I got this reminder that there are things more important than being on time, like being the kind of person who stops when someone needs help. Holy shit, indeed.